Morning YouTubers. I know it's been a while since I've been on. Today we're going to be starting on not really a full rebuild. We're only going to be taking it down to the intake gaskets and such. We're not doing head gaskets or anything on our new to us VG33E out of a 98 Nissan Pathfinder. That's what it's going in. You guys have seen my car before. Unfortunately, we did fuel injectors in the old Pathfinder and I got the wrong ones. Yay me. Actually went out of my experience level and I had to take it to a shop. Turns out it washed down the engine and it's now dead in two cylinders, number 5 and number 2. So we got this one out of a junkyard up north. They were a great company to work with, had no problem shipping it, going from a northern Utah state to a northern Utah city to a southern Utah city. Now we're going to be doing intake plenum, lower intake manifold gasket. We'll relocate the knock sensor. I'm also going to do a new timing belt, camshaft sensors, or not sensors, camshaft seals, and rear main seal and oil pan seal. Figure while I've got it out, now I'm able to work all the way around it. I might as well get all of that done so I don't have to do it again in 6 months to a year. The goal is to have this engine last another 150,000 miles. This one currently has 140,528 written on top of the manifold there, so I'm trusting them. But you're going to come along for the ride. We are working in my dirty garage that is very much unorganized instead of my shop. I was asked not to do this there. No political reasons, or they don't want it filmed. It's just we've got a lot of work right now and they can't have an engine just sitting around for the next month or so. So we're going to be working here. Before I left, while I still had access to air tools, I went ahead and broke the bolt free on the harmonic balancer. That one always takes a lot. If anybody's curious, it's a 27 millimeter. We will get started, bagging, tagging, and moving as we go. Join us. All right, everybody, to get started on this, we are going to be removing these 6 bolts all the way through there. They're a number 6 Allen head, hex head, whatever you'd like to call those. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. Okay, so that one is actually a little rounded. We'll have to find a replacement for it. Looks like it doesn't even want to let go of my Allen head. Don't know how good you'll be able to see this here. So you can see those edges kind of cut just a little bit. Still came out, so we're good. Go ahead and drop that in my handy dandy little tray. Guys, If you're ever shopping for tools, shop off the Cornwell truck. Same stuff as Snap-on, and like 30 to 50% less. That one's gonna round too. Ooh, that one's really rounded. Okay. New idea. And I don't want you to see what I'm about to do wrong. Okay, so beat that in just a little deeper. Hopefully it will work. There we go. And I didn't want you to see it because I didn't use a hammer. I used another ratchet. But hey, it worked. The beauty of a lifetime warranty. And again, you can see just how rounded that one is. Okay. There's all of those. Let's get them out. It is a junkyard engine, so most of the wiring was just cut. Makes it a little easier and a little harder. If you hear me shout in Spanish, my dog's down in the corner. And while I don't speak Spanish, my dog does. You guys can all laugh at me at home for that. Let's go ahead and get these all out of here. They're actually in pretty good shape for heat shields. I'll probably keep those and put them on the new engine. Or put them back in. It didn't come with a distributor, so I'll reuse my old one on that. But the old one has brand new plugs, wires, cap, rotor. The distributor is still the original, but all the rest of that stuff has been replaced. Oh wow, that came free right away. We still got some stuff on the back side there we got to get off. Move you a little bit. Now my engine stands rated for 750 pounds. According to the bill of lading on the delivery truck, this engine weighs in at 350. I've looked online and I got anywhere from 350 to 450 as far as weight goes. So do with that as you will. Just be safe. Get those lines, that line. Show you something here. So something that is kind of hard to see when it's in a car, the back side of the engine here. This is the upper intake manifold. There is a vertical coolant hose that you have to disconnect when you're doing this in a vehicle, and that would be this hose right here. Now, one of the popular modifications, if you live in a warm climate, would be to just cut this hose and cut this hose, and then get a piece of hose and just bypass it and put a loop in right here. And basically all you're doing, sorry about that, like I said, we're working in my garage in my apartment. People are gonna be driving by. This runs hot coolant up under the intake manifold to warm the air up before it gets into the engine. Not a necessity if you live in a warm climate, like I do. I'm in southern Utah. So I went ahead and bypassed this. I will be doing the exact same thing on this engine because I don't need it. Although, looking at it now, I might do it because I can get to it. So we'll see. Anyways, this is that hose that everybody has a really hard time getting to because your firewall is like right here. So you need like long needle nose pliers to get in there and get those. These look like they're going to come off pretty easy. So we'll go ahead and get those off now. Apparently I didn't bring a pair of pliers from work. All my tools are there, obviously. So we've got these little vice grips, which should work for our purposes. Well, that actually came off really easy. Yeah, it's not coming off. Alright, so we're going to do the same modification and just cut them. Hose is cheap. Just make sure when you're cutting them you don't get the vacuum lines that's behind it and the fuel rail line. Down underneath here is going to be a red connector. I don't know what it goes to, but it's under the intake manifold, so you do have to remove that. Vacuum lines are actually in really good shape on this. Got this little connector right here we got to pull off. Never pull by the wire, always pull by the connection itself. That was one of the ones they cut, so I didn't need to pull it off. But whatever. Right there for PCV. Alright, and that, did need to take those ones back. There we go. So you can see we've still got a harness under here for that red connection. Drop that off. And the vacuum line right here. Okay, got that. Okay, there we go. Alright, so we'll give you guys a closer look. You can see all the tubing. It's all coolant tubing that goes underneath that to warm the underside of that manifold. Warms up your intake and your throttle body right here and all of that. These are those two lines that I just cut and we're going to bypass because they really are not necessary in a warm climate. Maybe I'll hate myself for it, maybe I won't. I don't know yet. We'll find out. It's not like I can't put new ones back on there if I need to. Your red connection right here is this little solenoid. Not sure what it goes to. You've got this one that you've got to disconnect, but it's loose, so you can get that before you lift the whole thing up, and that goes down here to another solenoid. Again, these are coolant lines that those go to. Okay, so now that we've got that off, we can see underneath that intake manifold. I don't see a lot of oil leakage around the valve cover gaskets, but I am going to be replacing those anyways. We've got our fuel injector harness right here. It goes all the way around, gets all 6 of those. Looking at those fuel injectors, I mean, I don't know, they look fairly new. I do have new ones in the current Pathfinder engine. I think I'm just going to pull the new ones out and put those ones in here since I know they work. I know they're the right ones now. They were done by a shop for me. They were done by Flex Auto here in St. George. Brandon does great work there. He's the owner. And even though he knows what happened and that it washed down 2 cylinders, he disconnected, and by the way, 2 and 5, he disconnected those fuel injectors, so they're not even pumping gas into the cylinder anymore. He still called to check on me and see if I was good with it and if I was having any more problems with the engine, which obviously I am because it's now a V4 instead of a V6. But yeah, guys, engine work, Flex Auto does great work. All right, let's start getting all this off. And really, before I get too deep into that, I'm going to be taking masking tape, a marker, some baggies, and get all of this stuff marked up so that I don't lose any parts. Flex plate parts. Took that off at the shop. Now we'll get these. That's upper intake gasket. I've got upper intake, lower intake, valve cover gaskets, all those other seals I mentioned earlier, all coming from Rock Auto. Made sure they were the right ones and everything. Acuéstate. Tu cama. When you're getting these connectors off, one thing I've noticed, kind of push down, pinch, and then pull. That seems to work the best. There we go. Put that over there. Sorry, I'm going to walk in front of you. Okay, we got those off. Just take that off. Alright, so we got all that. Okay, so to get the fuel rail off, it's going to be these 4 6mm bolts. And again, we got to go careful and slow because they're Allen heads. They do run the risk of stripping. And who knows when these were pulled off last. Sure it's seated all the way down in there. And then just give it a dunk. Found that seems to work the best. I don't know if you have to crisscross when you take them off, but I don't know. I find that works a little better. Gets everything off. Well, okay, so that one's not going in all the way. While digging around my garage earlier, I did find an actual hammer, and it is smooth face. So. I think I need to redo the head on that one. Okay, here we go. There we go. Nice. And it popped right out again. Okay. And I can go ahead and take these all out. I'm not going to take these little caps off. When I tried to do them on the other engine and I put them back on, I cracked like 3 of them. They are not easy to find. Now I do have extras because I kept them all, but you have to be very, very careful with those. Yes, that's the problem with working with old cars. Not old, but older. Parts are getting hard to find on this thing. It's getting stiff coming out. Why is that getting stiff? It is coming out. There it goes. Just didn't want to let go nice and smooth. And I just dropped that into the lower intake down in the valley. Well, good thing we're taking this off. Excuse me, folks. Sorry, folks, another dog walked by. While my puppy is, well, she's not a puppy, she's 9 years old, is very well behaved and mild mannered, and would not go chasing off after it. I don't know the other dog. So, there we go. Okay, so there's those 4. I just don't want to forget about that one that we dropped down there. You're fine. Let's see if this can pop up. Cool, that's loose, that's loose. Awesome. So we got that little one back there. It's gonna give me, I got this one right here. There we go. Now you can see all 6 injectors. Okay, so you can see all 6 injectors. We've got rubber lines that connect each side. And those are going to get hung up right here on this horn and this horn. I got it off on this side, just a little bit of pressure and it slips right up. These are those caps I was talking about that crack really easy, and these screws strip really easy. So just be extra cautious. I will say one thing I wasn't too happy about is they just cut that fuel line off. They did it before those 2 ends. So I should be okay, but we're definitely gonna have to take that off and clean it up so that it doesn't cut the rubber fuel lines that get connected there. Okay. All right, everybody can see we've got our lower intake down there now. So we've got to do a little more prep work. I've got some other things to take off up here to get down into all of that. If anyone's curious, this is where your distributor goes, drops down into the engine. We've got spacers. Okay, so we need to put those with our bolts so we don't lose them. And then you've got O-rings down in here for your injectors as well. It really does look like it's in pretty decent shape. I don't see any, might be some oil leaking right here, but we'll deal with that. Your thermostat is right down here, which we've got a new one of those coming. Coolant hose goes down to here. All of that's going to come off. All right, so let's tackle that next so we can get prepped for our timing belt. Okay, so to get started, it's not really a good angle for you. It always scares me when it just starts rolling like that. Okay, so we've got some bolts that we need to take off for cross pieces and such. Let's get these sections out of the way. Or not, we're just going to leave the zip ties for now. Okay, so this is one of your tensioner pulleys. It's got one right here, 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 and here. These are all 12 millimeter. So let's go ahead and get those off. just a quick little jerk. I just want to be careful because the direction of, you know, righty tighty lefty loosey, my engine sits a little bit left. So every time I do that, it rocks it. And while this stand holds it just fine, it's a three-legged stand. It's not the most stable thing in the world. So I just need to be a little extra careful. Again, pull our little tray up here. I like this one because it's got 4 spots, so I can always put new parts in it, still keep them separated. Still stiff. There it goes. You can see this one is actually a stud, and that nut is rusted on there. So I just got to make sure I'm really careful with that. I'm not going to bother taking this nut off. There's really no reason to. It's just going to get put in the tray altogether. There's all those. You can see how that tensioner works. Make sure I got you on camera here. Tightening or loosening this bolt causes this to slide up and down in there, and that's what's going to do that. Pulley sounds pretty good. I don't hear any problems with that bearing, so we'll leave it just the way it is. Okay, now you can see down in here a little bit more. So we've got our water pump, harmonic balancer. This is, I don't remember if this is intake or outtake, if this is a high side or a low side radiator, but you got one radiator hose there, the other one right here. We've got our main belt tensioner, which, oh, yeah, we're gonna replace that. And then our harmonic balancer, which, like I said, 27mm bolt down here. Already got that free. There was no way taking that off without air tools. Okay, let's get this one. Again, these are all 12mm bolts or nuts. But it is a foreign car, so everything's going to be millimeters. Got that. Those are all the same, so we're just going to put it in with the ones for that. I believe that was the AC compressor. This one does 3 belts. Does the main belt, or sorry, the AC belt, the main belt, and then the power steering belt down at the back end of this. So 3 different grooves there for it. Let's see, we got that free now. Take it off at that hose right there. These may not be the same as mine. Mine is an 8mm. Or you can use a flathead or whatever it calls for. They're just screw clamps, worm drive clamps. Unfortunately, since I'm working from home on this, I grabbed tools I thought I needed. I obviously didn't grab all the tools I needed. So. There it goes. Probably gonna replace that hose too. And there's coolant. Yummy. Wasn't prepared for that. Should have been. I mean, pretty obvious there's coolant in the system. They come plugged, so I should have paid attention. Now I gotta be careful because I got my dog in here, so. Okay, I'll take that out later, make sure that's all nice and sealed. Let's do this one now. And now that I see how that is, well, we'll just leave that with the rest of those ones. Just call it my accessory bolts. Again, 12mm. That one's loose. Should be one more down here. There it is, right on the bottom of that pulley. Probably can't see it in camera. That's another tensioner for one of those other belts. Again, long. Actually, that bolt looks a little bit bent, so we'll see. Like I said, this one doesn't sound good, so we're probably going to have to replace that too. And that's fine. I expected to be replacing some of these. See a little bit of oil down here. Looks like it's seeping out of the top timing cover. So we've got these two bolts right here, and they connect the PCB all the way across. So this one and this one, these are 10mm. And I'm using a short, but like a ratcheting wrench would probably fit in here a little bit better because of this connection. And this holds part of the wiring harness. I'm going to put those in their own little tray, so I'm going to mix those ones up. Nala. Here. here. So that just pulls right off there. This one. Nala. Sorry guys, she's kind of roughing it a little dog, just making her presence known. So there's our PCV crossover vent tube. I don't know the technical name. Okay, got those. So to get this upper cover off, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts. They are 8mm bolts. They do have a Phillips head. You can try doing them with a screwdriver. I wouldn't recommend it. When I did them on the other one, they stripped out really easy. So I would recommend using the hex head and loosen them all up, then come back at them all the way. And they're not super tight. I don't know torque specs on this stuff, but I mean, we're just holding covers on, so not that much. Extension. Just a little deep in there for a standard socket. Caught it. You can tell I'm not putting a whole lot of effort into breaking these free. There really isn't much holding them. Okay, so those are all free. Go ahead and take them off. You can see they got a shoulder. They got a shoulder to them, and then just couple of threads is all that holds them in. I am going to make sure I separate these out between the uppers and the lowers. When I did the timing belt on my Pathfinder before, I put the wrong bolt in down here. Actually ate through the bolt with the harmonic balancer a little bit, throwing some sparks. It wasn't long before one of the guys at work saw me doing it and stopped me and got the engine off. So it didn't do any real damage, but I don't want to mix them up again. So this one, its little rubber here just disintegrated, so we'll need to get some new ones of those. That one's cracked and falling apart. So yeah, looks like some more shopping in my future. do wish my extensions were knurled. It'd be a little easier to use them with gloves on. So they're not wanting to come out of the timing cover. They're definitely not holding it in anymore. Okay, and there's our timing cover. That one came all the way out. Rubber's a little cracked up, but it'll be okay. These ones all separated from their rubber and then stayed, so I think that's what's holding them in. So, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Probably, no, somebody took that off and put silicone in there. Silicone? Whatever. To stop that oil leak right there. So, okay. Okay, so that's the upper cover. You can't take the lower cover off without taking off the balancer. I can see the timing belt looks like it's in decent shape. Actually, it doesn't look that old. I bet this was replaced at the 120,000 mark when it was supposed to be. And the tech just did that silicone in there to kind of help keep stuff clean. Got our water pump down here. We're going to be getting a new one of those. Comes in the kit. Definitely want to get down into that valley and clean everything out. Alright. Let's do some labeling. See you guys in a second.